So let's talk about Cawemo. I mentioned it already a little bit this morning in the keynote when we spoke about how organizations can scale the use of BPM practice in their within those organizations. And we have a particular vision for Cawemo that I want to share with you. So we will be talking about that first. This is a lot about where we will go with Cawemo, what it will facilitate in the future. And then there's a current version of Cawemo that we will demo. Cornelius will come to the stage here to do that. And then in the end, we will look a little bit at the concrete roadmap, so what you can expect in the next 18 months to come about. We will see whether we have enough material to fill the slot, so get busy typing questions into the app, then later Noel can run them by us and then we can answer them. All right. So when we do these automation projects inside of an organization, we have this core requirement that we make people work together. And it often, as we already talked about this morning, it often starts in a way where we have a business unit that wants to automate a business process, and then we have different stakeholders inside that business unit. We have some people who will be in the role of a process owner, so that can be a manager in the business unit, could be a project lead. Process owner is then the person responsible for this process, making sure it does the right thing, making sure it produces the correct outputs and results. We will have the process workers, so Sachbearbeiter in German, so the ones that will actually do the manual work that is part of the process. Need to involve those as well. And then we will have other stakeholders that have a stake in this process doing the right thing. It can be managers, it can be employees, it can be some sort of leads. And as an organization, this business unit will come to the conclusion that it wants to automate the business process, and then it will request the solution from the IT department. And in there, again, we have various different roles. And one of the key benefits of BPMN and the business process automation paradigm is that we can bring together all these people around the process models. So that's nice in theory, but then in practice, the question is, how are we able to do that? And so far, in Camunda, there is a tool that's the Camunda Modeler, and that's used to do that, but it's not the right tool to solve this complete problem. So when we look into these projects a little bit more in detail, we see that often, of course, we're agile, so we're going to repeat these phases, but we're going to go through these phases in a way. So initially, maybe when we do a project like that, we're going to do a design phase where business and IT comes together, where we're going to figure out what are our requirements, what's this process going to look like. We need to look at our IT infrastructure to get a sense of what are the systems that we have, where is the data, what data does need to be involved, how can we access it, and so on. And then together we will design this process. We go into the implementation phase where we're going to write a lot of code. During this phase, we're going to have questions that we need to clarify because maybe we didn't draw the perfect process in the first place, which of course often happens. Then we go into the operations phase where we put everything in production, and then hopefully we can do this, this improvement lifecycle where we look at the data that's produced by the process and then we can improve it. Now, the Camunda Modeler, as I said, is a tool that can model BPMN, but it is not a tool that is designed to solve this overall challenge of bringing everybody together around the process design. Camunda Modeler is a really nice tool. It's targeted at a software developer. Its purpose is to create and deploy executable BPMN and DMN models. I can use it on my machine, so if I have my processes checked out from a source control, revision source control management system like Git or SVN, I can check out my processes with the Camunda Modeler. I can make them a source code artifact of my implementation process, and this is really nice. It's, as we saw right here today, it's highly extensible when it comes to customizing it, when it comes to tailor it down to the exact requirements that we have in our project. It's also open source, but it's not the solution to this, how can we as an organization collaborate around modeling and make the models transparent. Now, That's also why when I look at you know, the Camunda stack and the tools that we have there, and in which phase of the process implementation project are they relevant, the Camunda modeler is relevant in the implementation phase. It's a tool for the developer. Of course, in certain projects, some organizations are leveraging it as an organizational modeling tool, but it's not built to do that. It can also take, you know, an SUV and go to the racing track, but it's not where it probably should be. I don't know what SUVs are for, but yeah. So Cawemo is supposed to fill this gap, and it's supposed to be the tool, and it will become the tool in the future that we can use for initially during this design phase to bring together all the relevant stakeholders in our automation project, have them collaborate together. Later in the demo, we will see how we can use commenting to align our ideas around the business process. We can actually physically work on the same process at the same time with multiple people. But it will also you know, support discoverability in a sense that if we need to know which processes are in our organization, we can go there and we can see them. What is interesting is that this is not the complete story. Cawemo is interesting in this design phase, but when we think a little bit further, it can go beyond that. Think about this next phase, the implementation phase. So we have created the initial model. And as I said before, usually it will not be perfect. So we need to ask questions about it. So if we are able to integrate Cawemo with the Camunda modeler so that developers can pull out the process into their development environment, start implementing that, and then, you know, when they make changes, cycle it back into the Cawemo, ask questions there, then things get really, really interesting, because now we can actually, during the implementation phase, have everybody collaborate again, so involve all the stakeholders. And it goes beyond that. In the operations phase, we can have operators adding feedback on the processes that they're working with. So if you're an operator and you have to fix the same problem every day in a business process, so every day in a particular task, instances will queue up because there's something wrong with the process in that case. Then it can be really interesting for you if you can, in Cockpit, for example, provide feedback about, look guys, I think we need to improve this task. So even in this stage, we can integrate Cawemo with the other tools in the Camunda stack to aggregate all the feedback that we can collect on the business process and then make it transparent through Cawemo. And the same goes for the optimization phase. So Optimize can track KPIs, it can collect interesting data and find correlations about how our business processes actually behave in production, and we can feed that back into a tool like Cawemo to make it transparent to all the stakeholders that are involved. Take another perspective on it is how we see Cawemo in the future is really this collaboration hub for different stakeholders that through Cawemo get access to everything that is going on inside the stack. So it can be integrated with the different tools. Key function is obviously the round trip with the Camunda modeler, where we have the business stakeholders on the one hand and developers on the other hand working together to improve the model over time. That's the vision, that's where we're going. I had this morning as well to formulate that in a more compact way. In the future, Cawemo's mission as a tool that is part of the Camunda BPM stack will be to facilitate collaboration around business modeling between all stakeholders in a process automation project. That's where we want to go with it. We are at a particular place with it right now, which is sort of a very, very small rendition of this vision. So what you're going to see now in the demo is not the full implementation of this. It's a very small part of it, but this part is already very interesting. And I'm happy to welcome Cornelius here, who is going to take us through the demo, and then we can see what's already possible and what's already there.
Thank you, Daniel. So I'm Cornelius. I'm a proud member of the Cawemo team at Camunda, and I'm delighted to show you what the product looks like today. We launched like a little bit over a year ago with the mission of being a very lightweight and simple tool to allow collaborative modeling and working on business workflows. And this is what it looks like, basically. So you can sign up. I already have, which is why I just log in. And then I will land on this homepage, which basically shows me my recent diagrams. On the left-hand side, we have a menu, which we can also collapse to make more space. The first item here is called drafts, and this is basically my private space to create some diagrams that I don't want to share with anyone else yet. Just want to try out some things for myself before sharing. Projects, however, is the concept of a folder, basically, and you can invite other people, colleagues, collaborators to projects, and they will have access to all the diagrams that are stored within. So I've created an empty diagram, an empty project for CamundaCon already. It doesn't have any diagrams yet, but I did invite Daniel as a collaborator, and he will hopefully be able to collaborate with me live, which will hopefully not break today. Okay, so let's jump right in and create a new diagram. What you see here is basically the canvas that you're already familiar with from the Camunda modeler. It's the very same user experience, which is very great if you are used to it. So it takes a little bit of time to get used to the specific controls. On the right-hand side, we have a comment panel, which I just close for now because we don't have any comments yet. But what I can basically do, I can extend this already created start event to create my model. I can use this palette on the left-hand side to draw tasks to my canvas, which is not the best user experience I find because it's a little clunky. What you can do instead, and I highly recommend it, is use those shortcuts. So for instance, let's create a diagram right now. Maybe I can zoom in a little, get even nicer. So when you select an element, you can just extend the diagram from here. Let's say we are talking about something to eat. So maybe we are just hungry. And then we decide on something to eat. And then we do something. I'm a vegetarian, so in that case, I would obviously eat something vegetarian, maybe a salad. And if I'm not a vegetarian, that happens to some people, they would order something else. I have no idea about what this could be, so let's leave this open. Here we have an end event then. Let's give this a nice name. I think what would be appropriate is something like this. Okay, so now I would be at a place in my workflow where I'm stuck. I need help by someone who loves meat, and Daniel is eating meat, as far as I know. So I could now invite him as a collaborator with this button over here. I can just type in his email address, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to in this case because he is already invited. So what I can do instead is I can just click on this task I want to have his input on and say, let's leave a comment for him. Hi, and then we have this little add notation. Hey, Daniel, he pops up already. What would a meat lover eat? Something like this, okay? And then we have attached this little comment to this box over here. It's also showing up in this sidebar. And now Daniel can, he should have gotten an email notification about this, that his input is expected. And now I do nothing, and he should take over while I still observe. Ah, steak, okay. Very good. And you also added an end event. Perfect. Does that have a description also? No. Ah. Very good. Okay, but we do have another comment. Steak is the best. Perfect, I agree with that. So we can Oh, he's messing around with my diagram. We can mark this as resolved for now, so it doesn't get in the way anymore. Okay. We do have an indication here that new comments have been added, but that's pretty self-explanatory. We also see the people that are currently working on this model at the same time in different colors. So Daniel is kind of orange. There is one feature that comes particularly in handy if you have large diagrams you are collaborating on, and maybe you are in a telephone conference, like 20 people are watching the same diagram using Cawemo. You can watch the changes in real time, but maybe there is a question asked for one particular element. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open up our a little bit more complicated hiring process. Looks like this. I mean, we really make a science out of hiring, as you can see. And Daniel also has access to that one. And now maybe he can just point me to an element that he wants to get my attention to. I don't know. Do you have access to that diagram?
Look close.
I don't see it. I really need to look very close. Ah, there you are. Okay. So what he just did is basically... Okay. That's the moment of truth when the app freezes in a live demo.
Blame it on the internet.
Yeah, internet is shitty here. It really is, right? I mean, I don't have internet. Well, Cawemo is supposed to work in the cloud, so which requires internet. If that's not given, then we do have a problem. There you go. Now it's coming up. Okay. So what Daniel just did, he was basically making use of this little icon down here, which is called an attention grabber. So if you have a complicated diagram and want to basically laser point to an element, you just click it, and bam, you have a nice indication with the pulsing symbol grabbing everyone's attention. Besides that, you have some nice sharing capabilities. They are hidden over here, so you can download the diagram as PDF, as well as an image, and also as a BPMN file, which may come handy if you want to continue working on the diagram in the Camunda modeler. But there is also a sharing feature built in, so you can basically copy the link that is being created. I'm going to open up a new incognito window to just demo what happens then. There you go. Basically, a lightweight way of sharing a diagram. Another nice thing is the ability to embed a diagram in confluence or a wiki kind of system, which makes it very easy to use your own systems to basically publish diagrams that are being maintained in Cawemo. Okay. I think this concludes the demo for the time being. So let me go back to the presentation to give you an outlook on what we have planned going forward in the near future. Daniel already spoke a little bit about the overall vision of Cawemo to expand to all the phases in the process automation projects. But for the foreseeable future, we will be working on a few nice things, which I want to showcase here. Coming up is the ability to add collaborators with different permissions. So you can invite them with read, comment only, or view only permissions. Right now, it's only possible to invite people with write permissions so they can basically mess around with your diagram, which is not always nice. Another nice thing coming up is the ability to version diagrams. Everything you change in a Cawemo diagram is automatically saved, but so far you are not able to basically create a snapshot, a save point, which we call a milestone. It's basically a version that you can also revert back to, as you can see here. And later on, you will be able to compare different versions as well and do some diffing on them. And the next big rock that is going to keep us busy is Cawemo on-premise. Oh, sorry, I'm skipping slides here. Cawemo on-premise, which is basically the same user experience, as you know from Cawemo, but not in the cloud, not in our cloud, but in your own one. So you don't have to have any data privacy concerns whatsoever. And last but not least, this is going to be an upcoming thing as well, is the ability to synchronize diagrams that are maintained in Cawemo with your working instance of a Camunda modeler back and forth, which would make the handover between the business people on the one hand side and the developers at the other side much easier, ideally. This concludes what we have prepared, but maybe there are some questions.